Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through a weekly trade breakdown. So last week, I took a total of 7 trades and all 7 trades were profitable. It was one of my better weeks with all of the trades going into over 40% to 50%, even 100% ROI. So I had some really high probability setups. I was extremely patient in the market, waited for CPI data to come out. Currently, what we've seen in the market has been a scalper's market over the past couple of weeks. So you've had to be a little bit quicker with your plays. We haven't had significant price action or price direction in the market on any given day, but there were definitely high probability setups for you to be able to catch if you were patient enough in the market last week. I do just want to say that not every week is like that. Last week was one of my better weeks. I sized accordingly. I stayed the same size. Usually I size anywhere from 20 to 30 contracts per position. I stayed the same size throughout the week. I didn't size up or size down. Really, it just came down to being extremely patient with the market and waiting for the highest probability setup to come for me to be able to take that trade. Every single trade was called in my Discord, so I'll go through a couple of the trades that I took. A lot of the highest probability setups that I took this past week were all trendline break. There were a couple of breakout trades that I took, but mostly the trendline breaks were what was giving me that high percentage gain on some of these trades. So I'll go through those with you guys. I also took a strangle play into CPI. I'll skim through that a little bit so you guys can understand that too. That was a big chunk of my gain this week as well. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and get started. So the first one that I'm going to go through is from February 12th. So it was last Monday. This was the day before CPI. And I took puts on SPX. Now, every trade that I did take was with SPX. I utilized BOOKMAP and volume pressure in order to identify where there was volume for me to be able to get into that breakout or trendline break. But I do just want to say that I did post the live trades. I recorded all of these live and I posted the live trades on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts. So if you guys want to check those live trades out, go ahead and check them out. I'm going to be recapping all of the trades that I took. So here is my TRADERSYNC from last week. You can see February 12th to the 16th. All of my trades profitable. Now this red trade is the losing side of my strangle. So this is the winning side and this is the losing side. I netted around $10,000 on that trade. But the rest of them, as you guys can see, are all profitable trades on that day. So let's go ahead and go through some of these trades here. So the first trade we're going to go through is from Monday. All right, so this is SPX's chart from Monday. Now I was looking at SPX puts. I missed the move up to the upside here. I just didn't like the upside trend. This was the day before CPI, so I was really hesitant on the upside. Not sure why, it was just my gut. So I ended up not taking a move in the morning. Now you can see that later in the day, SPX ended up double topping. So we have this first top here, even the second top. You could probably take this as a triple top, but you can see on the 2-minute here was a double top. ES also double topped here before we ended up breaking the base of that double top at 540. You could have entered at the 540 as well on SPX and took puts. Now I waited for the trend line break. So as you guys can hear, as you guys can see here on this specific trend line, this is the swing low. We got 1, 2, 3. This was from yesterday. 4th touch from that specific day. So it's a 4-touch trend line. It's a high probability setup here. So I wanted to see SPX break the trend line for me to enter for puts. So I ended up entering SPX at 139, which is on this candle here as it broke out of the trend line. You can see that once it broke out of the trend line, what does it usually do? Whenever we get a trend line break, 90% of the time breaks the trend line, retests, and then continues down. So the retest level and your stop loss is going to be that trend line retest. So my stop loss I set at 50.36, which was the trend line. It was also its 9 EMA. You can see that SPX broke out perfectly, pulled back, retested that trend line, and then continued down. So it's a really nice setup here, clean. You can also see that when SPX made the move down, it pulled back and created an H pattern. So you can see here, this is an H pattern. This is a bearish pattern here. You could have also entered at this breakout as well. So you could have also waited to enter at the retest level here instead of entering at the breakout of the trend line. Either entry is good. I always enter at the breakout because sometimes you don't end up getting the retest, and on a trend line break, it can shoot right down. So I always end up entering on the breakout. And I set my stop loss at the retest level here, and then you can see created an H pattern, which is the bearish pattern. So everything was in place here, and we ended up getting the move down on SPX. So I entered this play at 139, which is this candle here. I ended up exiting some of my position at 215 and 216 on these 2 candles here, and I exited the rest of my position, let me just double check, at 219. So the rest of my position was exited at the bottom of this candle here, and you can see that exit was perfect here on this candle. on SPX, so we ended up catching the entire move here. So if we go ahead and look at ES's chart here at the same time, you can see that ES had a perfect setup as well. We ended up breaking. We also broke VWAP, retested that VWAP as ES retested the as SPX retested the trend line. We ended up getting the breakdown. The next level down on ES was 50.30 and 50.40, and you can see we got a clean sell down. We did have some buyers sitting at around 50.30 on BOOKMAP, so I was comfortable exiting the rest of my position as ES approached that 50.30 level on BOOKMAP. So that is why I exited the runners there. The runners ended up going to around $17. So the premium really moved around 300% because we went from $5 to $17. So it was a really, really high probability setup here. This was probably the best trade that I took outside of my strangle, or percentage wise, since the premium went up to so high. The next trade I'm going to go through is a trade that I took on the 15th of February on SPX. Again, this was another trend line break. Like I said, those were the highest probability setups we got this week, so I ended up catching a couple of those. So let's go ahead and go to the 15th. So again, we had another trend line. This was the trend line that I had on SPX here. And if we go ahead and look at ES futures, this is what I was seeing on ES futures here. Now I wanted to see ES clear 50.20. It then had a trend line sitting at around a 50.13. So I was looking for ES to sell from 50.20 to around 50.13, which was the trend line where it had. So it was a small target on ES. And from SPX, I had 50.10 down to 5,000 was that target out of the trend line break. So this was going to be a quick scalp here. So I entered SPX puts here at, let's go ahead and take a look, 10.29. Whoops. So I entered on this candle here as it broke out of the trend line here and broke out of my level at 50.10. So my main target on this play was 5,000. I did scale out at 10.34 some of my position. I had a stop of 50.10. Now, as you guys can see, we ended up retesting that 50.10. Again, what happens is when we get a trend line break, we always tend to retest. We ended up retesting here. This was a little bit of a longer retest, but even in the retest, you can see here the SPX ended up creating another trend line. Broke out, retested, we got another trend line. Now in this specific break here, now if you missed this trend line break, you could have taken this trend line break as well. Out of the retest level, rejection of 50.10, trend line break, this would have been your entry candle here, target of 5,000. This is a good play as well. I ended up holding some of this position, exiting 90% of my position at, let's take a look, 11.04, and then the rest at 11.09. So I ended up exiting 90% of my position at 11.04 and the rest of my position at 11.09 once it touched 5,000. I follow my profit targets to the T. So I exited some here, and once that 11.09 candle hit 5,000, I exited the rest of it, and I didn't wait for ES's next 5-minute candle to open. So 509 on ES was this 5-minute candle that, 1109 was this 5-minute candle that pushed into that trend line. I did see some buyers sitting at around 50.15 and 50.10 on ES futures on BOOKMAP, which is why I was able to exit here, as well as ES was approaching this trend line here, this white line, so I was comfortable exiting all of my position on SPX and not risking if ES would potentially clear the downside trend line or not. At the same time, SPX hit my target. So my main thing is, if I have a trading plan and if I have targets, I follow those targets to a T, and that is what's going to set you apart from someone that gets greedy or revenge trades or holds a trade for too long. You always want to follow those profit targets. Even if you're someone that's not able to hold a trade, having profit targets and making sure that if everything is showing you that the stock has no reason to pull back or no reason to reverse and it's approaching your profit target, there's no reason for you to exit. Now, once it does hit your profit target, you need to take profit. There's a reason you set that profit target. And if everything is showing you that, hey, we're slowing down here, or we might see some buyers step in, or we might see some sellers step in, depending on what side of the market you're on, it's time to take profit at that point. And I always tend to scale out as the stock is making the move down. So scaled out 90% here, and then the rest of my position at 5,000, and made a decent profit here on this play as well. All right, so the next play that I'm going to go through is the last play I took on the week, and this was with SPX puts. So again, I ended up taking SPX puts. Now this specific play, a lot of people may say that I ended up getting in a little bit late. There's a couple of reasons I entered where I entered, and the first one I'm going to go through is BOOKMAP. So I pay very close attention to BOOKMAP. I do have a BOOKMAP video if you guys want to go take a look at that. But one thing that I look at on BOOKMAP is this. So this is the recording of my screen that I was watching. So I'm just going to kind of show you guys. Now, BOOKMAP has this add-on that's called volume pressure, and you get it through Market Pulse. It's an add-on that you can add with BOOKMAP. I'll link it below if you guys want to check it out. But it is a visual representation of where volume is sitting on both futures. Now, I always have ES futures open. I have NASDAQ futures open as well, but my main focus is ES as I'm trading SPX. Now, if you look here on this volume pressure, it has a marker. This marker here, that white line on both the buy and sell side, is a 70% marking. Usually what you want to see is, depending on what side of the market you're trading, you want to see buyers and sellers above that 70% line. Okay, so this I watch extremely closely, and you can see that as SPX was coming down. Now, I showed you guys here that I wanted to enter on the initial break, but it was too close to open. And if you look here, you can see that there was selling pressure, but there was still heavy buying pressure here. So buyers had not completely given up control of the stock. So at this point, I wasn't completely convinced that sellers were going to take over. So I was very patient. Now, as we move forward in the day, you can see again, we ended up getting a break below 50.20, but look at where sellers and buyers are. Buyers are still very much present in the play. There wasn't significant selling pressure. There was no follow through with the push down. Every push down we got, we ended up getting a pullback. Every push down we ended up getting buyers stepping right back in. There was not any heavy selling pressure going in. So before I go through this play, I wanted to show you guys this because a lot of people were like, I posted this play on Instagram and people were saying, you know, why didn't you enter early? You entered too late. And it's because there was significant buyers still present in ES, which is why I was not comfortable entering until it broke 50.15 on SPX, and ES ended up breaking 50.30. So ES at open broke my trend line, but my main factor was I wanted to see ES break 50.30. That was the level that I was watching on ES. Below 50.30, the next level that I had on ES for it to touch was 50.20. Ended up selling all the way down to 50.11. So you guys can see here, we ended up making this move down, and that was this move here on SPX. Now, SPX was around right here when ES was approaching 50.30. So I wanted to see ES break the 50.30 level on BOOKMAP with high sellers before I entered SPX, because I entered SPX on this 952 candle, and my targets were 50.10 and 5,000 on this play. And you guys can see once it broke 50.15, we got a clean sell down on both ES and SPX, and I'm going to show you guys that on this play here, the difference between what we see here, and you can see it on just the volume pressure itself, not even looking at the actual BOOKMAP order flow, just looking at volume pressure. Now look at when I went to enter SPX, and I'm just going to make this bigger here. You can see volume pressure not only in the numbers, but you can see how much more sellers have stepped in. Buyers stayed the same. So we were around 2 to 3 million on the buyers. You can see the sellers start to step in a lot more than the buyers. So not only did volume increase significantly, you can see at this top number here, but sellers are still holding. They're also increasing significantly. Buyers are staying steady to where they were previously. They're not increasing, they're not decreasing, but they're steady. But sellers are increasing. As it broke, I ended up entering here, which is why I didn't enter anywhere around here or here, because I wanted to see selling pressure increase. And if we move this forward, you'll see sellers, look at this, continue to increase. Buyers increased as well, but sellers are well above that 70% mark. I ended up catching this entire move down to 5,000 on SPX. This was 100% gain on this play. Clean move. You can see when we were patient and waited for the sellers to really step in on this play, we ended up getting a clean scalp down, no pullbacks. We ended up getting to our first target of 50.10 and 5,005, and then 5,000. You can see we ended up getting some sellers step in at 5,005. This was close to ES's 50.20 level, but we ended up clearing that as well. We pulled back slightly, retested the 50.10, and then look at this, selling pressure still heavy, buyers stagnant here as we got the move down to 5,000. Look at this, above the 70% marker. showing you strong selling pressure here. I ended up exiting most of the rest of my position once it touched the 5,000 level, and yes, touched 50.20 and cleared 50.20 into the next level down. If we look here, we scaled out at 9:54, 55, and then all of my position was out at 10 o'clock. And if we look at the chart itself, this is 9:54 and into 9:55, and then the 10 o'clock candle, 10 a.m. candle, perfect exit as it touched the 5,000. This is the 10 a.m. candle on ES. You can see we got a huge wick, so I ended up exiting as it made the push down on ES there. I really just wanted to go through this play so I can show you guys why I entered, where I entered, and what I really look out for when I'm looking to enter either on the buy side or call side or put side, what I'm looking at on BOOKMAP in order to be able to identify where the best highest probability entry point is for myself. So I just wanted to clear that up. So yeah. So those were some of the trades that I took this week, a couple of the trades that I took this week. Hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions on any of the trades that I took, go ahead and comment them down below. Like I said, all of the live videos were posted on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. So if you guys want to check those out, go ahead and check them out as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.